Happy Monday, Inspire Beauty. Jared, I'm seriously so excited right now. Number one, thank you for your yes. Yeah, Olivia,
Okay. I'll turn it backwards. You got it.
we're doing this for you, man.
I know.
No, we love it. We love it. And I'm so excited for your yes. I'm so grateful for your yes. Body is so new to our Beachbody community. I mean, when we look at Beachbody and we look at all the amazing things that have just continued to stack one on top of another over the years. I'm a grandmother in this network. I've been around for a hot minute. And so the onset of this boutique style live class format, it's just been everything. But I think what's been so fun is having new trainers come into the mix that aren't these, and Jared, forgive me, you are a super trainer to us, but not these like super trainers that just feel, for lack of a better term, out of reach. You are so relatable, you're so reachable, and I'm just so grateful for your yes. Some of us who know you from our mixed bikes and have fallen in love with your classes, we know a little bit about, your story, and we know just smidges of what you've told us in your classes and whatnot. But there's a lot of people on tonight that don't have a bike, have maybe never taken a class with you before. And I hate to say this, but since it's such a new platform, maybe friends tonight don't even really know much about you or what you bring to the table now that you're part of our Beachbody family. So welcome to our Beachbody family. Welcome to our call tonight. Can you start by taking us through a little bit of your story? How did you get started with cycling?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you all so much for even having me. The fact that you wanted to invite me onto this, it's just so humbling. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate being able to connect with you guys, because most of the time I'm yelling at you guys on a bike. And so being able to have an actual dialogue is just so refreshing, and I'm really looking forward to it. So again, like Brittany said, my name is Jared. I am one of the newer trainers on the BOD platform. And as far as how I got into cycling, it's been a wild ride. I never in a million years thought I would ever even enjoy cycling. And somehow a couple of years after this transformation, I just kind of fell into it. So a little bit of backstory about myself. I'm from Michigan originally. So I love seeing all that Michigan State representing out there. I'm a Michigan State fan. I went to Western Michigan, but I'm a Michigan State fan. So you went there as well? I think you might be on mute.
I totally just clicked off the screen. I got so excited. Yes, go Broncos! Oh my
God. Broncos. Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Awesome. So I'm a Detroit sports fan, like through and through. Went to Western, all that, and I'm actually going to be in Michigan this weekend, which is why I'm not teaching this coming Friday. But so moved out to LA about 8 or 9 years ago, and my whole life I essentially was very overweight. And although I was active in my day-to-day life, I played high school sports and what have you, I just, whether it's just, my diet just was not, where I wanted it to be. And so, although I kind of fell in this rut, I knew I was out of shape. I was active, but I just didn't know how to get out. And so we talk about January 1st just passed. And so I was the type of person that every single January I would try a new diet, and then get around this time and I would quit and I would just burn out. Right. I would just jump into it and burn out. Right. So that was pretty much my life until about 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, I was actually in a contact flag football league out here. And at the time I looked very different than I do now. I was nearly 300 pounds. And so we were hitting each other, contact sort of thing. And in this league, I pulled my hamstring 3 or 4 times within a 2-month period. And it was so bad and it just wasn't getting better. And so I went to the doctor, and my doctor was essentially hey, if you want to solve this injury, you have to do something that's low impact, that'll strengthen your soft tissue. And he recommended the bike. And I was no way am I getting in that freaking thing. One of my old clients actually owned a cycling studio, and I had taken her class maybe a year before that. And I just did not vibe with it. It was not my thing. It was just, whatever. And so I was I'm not getting on this freaking bike, or I'm not going to go to a class, whatever. it just wasn't my thing. And so I was actually a member of LA Fitness that was near me at the time. And so I was like, I know that they have a cycling room. I'm just going to go there on off hours when there's not an actual class and kind of just do my own thing, maybe like 6 days a week or something like that to strengthen my hamstring. And during that same time, from the diet perspective, I went to grab lunch one day out of my fridge, and I opened up my refrigerator, and there were 4 different pizza boxes from 4 different restaurants. And that was like a light bulb moment to me where I was like, I need to get my diet together, because I am just eating like crap and just like not paying attention whatsoever. So did the whole diet thing, intermittent fasting while I was getting onto the bike. And after the first month, I lost 20 pounds. And it was like, when I first got on the bike, it was all about strengthening my leg to make sure I didn't do any like long-term damage or anything like that. And I was like, well, if I can lose 20 pounds in a month, like, let's see how far I can take this thing, right? And 6 months later, I had lost 100 pounds and totally changed the direction of my life. And it was totally unintentional. And it was an experience that like I said, I never would have expected myself to fall into. And it just like, I talk about lighting a match during my classes and starting a fire, like that. Literally having an injury like that catapulted my life into a completely different direction than I ever would have expected. And so it was actually so crazy that I had actually switched careers around that time as well. And I had bumped into one of my old coworkers and like out in public, and we were chatting, and like 5 minutes into the conversation, she goes, Jared, is that you? Like, she had no idea who I even was. And she was just like carrying on the conversation. So like that, I'll never forget, like that moment was so impactful to me, because I was like, okay, like I have changed my life so drastically that I'm unrecognizable compared to what I used to be. Right. So that's how I got into cycling. It was really crazy. And to be, like I said, like I never would have, I was a denier that I was a cyclist for the longest time. Like I was always like, oh, like I'm never going to be one of these people to wear spandex or do any of that sort of stuff. And then now I'm like all into it. So that just goes to like speak to the power of like how much influence this platform can have, and how much influence the bike in general can have, whether it's a road bike, a stationary bike. It literally can change your life. And I never expected it to change mine, but it really did.
Jared, so good. So funny that you talk about the in denial about the spandex. So my husband's in another room on the call taking care of the dog duty right now. But he wanted to listen in because my husband is a cyclist, like a real cyclist. I mean, you know, not like me, like a real, like an outdoor cyclist.
Yeah.
And he's always wanted me to get the bike and get the spandex. And I'm like, no, babe, not my thing. That's your thing.
Yeah.
And then I bought this bike, and I think low key, that's like kind of a slap in the face. And I'm like, nah, but I think it's a different vibe, but I love that. You do outdoor, like road cycling too. Yes.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the thing that like moved me into the whole spandex thing. I was a denier for the longest time. And I went on a road bike ride with a bunch of friends one day, and we went like 60 miles. And I like showed up, I have my road bike. I showed up, I'm wearing like gym shorts and a gym shirt, and they're all wearing like the cycling getup, and they're all looking at me weird, but I'm looking back at them all weird, because like, I'm never going to wear that. And I'll tell you, after 60 miles on a road bike with those uncomfortable seats, I got padded shorts after that. But luckily stationary bikes have a little bit more cushion to them. But yeah, after that moment, I was like, okay, I'm a cyclist. I'm getting the whole get up. So.
Once you get the gear, man, gear. I love it. He came over here and started laughing through the door, because he's like, so true. He did AIDS Life Cycle in California. I'm sure you're familiar, but if anyone needs to know,
I've heard that's unbelievable. I was actually just talking to one of like the head producers at Beachbody. He was talking to me about it. That's around like August, right?
June, top of summer.
Yeah. That's awesome.
You got to go do it, man. That's a great goal for you. I'm setting goals for you, Jared.
Yeah, look at that. I love it.
Get on the call. I set some goals for you. So walk us through that moment of you fell in love with cycling. Bridge the gap for us a little bit. How did Beachbody come into this picture? How'd you get started with Beachbody?
It's the weirdest thing, because like every single step along the way has sort of been like an evolution. It wasn't like I got on the bike and the next thing I was at Beachbody. It was like I lost all this weight, And then the gym that I was working out at, they took notice of it. And like, it's just an LA Fitness. And they were just like, we see that you lose all this weight or lost all this weight. Why don't you teach a class? And sort of like, maybe it's just my personality again, but like, I kind of pushed back on it. I was like, I'm not like I do my own thing. I don't know if I necessarily want to do it. But then eventually I realized like, I'm there anyway. I might as well make a little side hustle out of it. Even though it was like $20 a class. It wasn't like anything crazy or anything like that. But I was like, I'm going to be here anyway. I might as well do it. And so it started off once again as like a selfish thing, like, but it grew into like seeing the amount of change that you can impact on people's lives through this one medium is just unbelievable to me. And I never expected it. Right. So it was funny. My first class that I ever taught at LA Fitness, I like practiced it a million times, like put in all this work. And my buddy Mike was the only person that showed up. And so like, it was like, okay. But at the same time, like being able to have him to lean on and like that's the worst that could happen is one person show up type of deal. And it grew into like, I got a following at LA Fitness, and all these people started having transformation in their lives. And then the pandemic happened. So I stopped instructing for a little bit. I started teaching at this company called Beach Cycle, which is a cycling class on the beach here in Santa Monica, which is awesome. If anybody's ever in LA, hit me up. I'll get you a spot. But that's where I actually felt like I really started to, kind of get my stride a little bit, is because, I was able to tap into not just the technical aspect of cycling, but also like building a playlist and all of that at Beach Cycling. And then how I found out about Beachbody, it's just the most crazy thing ever. So, and it feels like every single experience in my life that has taken me on a new road has always happened by chance, which is the weirdest thing. But so, and it's just coincidence. So first of all, my first interaction with Beachbody ever was in high school. I was like a sophomore in high school, and I was on the baseball team. And one of my buddies, like after baseball practice one day, he's like, man, I forget which one it was. It was either P90X or Insanity. He's like, man, I just got Insanity. You got to come over. We're going to get so jacked. Like, come over and we'll do this thing together. Let's like dive in. And I literally did one workout and I was just like, I can't do this. I just totally, it wasn't my thing at the time. But yeah, so anyway, so fast forward to it was like June of this year. I was at my day. I have a career, like a 9-to-5 day job, and we're in hybrid mode, right? And so most of the time I'm actually working from home, but for whatever reason, that one day I was in the office, and I get a message on Instagram, and I'm sure anybody who has Instagram like gets spam messages all the time, like, oh, we can boost your following, or like, pay for likes or whatever. And so like, I just thought it was some spam message, but I was sitting at my desk during lunch, and I opened this message, and it's like, hey, her name's Angel. She's like also one of the top production people at Beachbody. She's like, we're launching this new platform. We'll love to chat with you about it. I saw your Instagram that you're like teaching on the beach. We'd love to chat. And whereas if I was at home, I probably wouldn't have taken the call, but because I was at work that day and I had to drive home, I was like, you know what? I got 20 minutes to kill. Like, why not just take the phone call? And so I took the phone call. I think it was 2 days later, I was auditioning, and 4 days later, they gave me the job. And so it was just like this crazy thing where I had no idea that this opportunity was even there. And one phone call, one crazy interaction changed my whole trajectory. And so just being able to say yes when I don't know if I necessarily would have, like, I like thank my lucky stars every single day that I would just so happen to be in the office that day. And it just seemed like the biggest coincidence. So yeah, I'm just like, I say it all the time, and I literally just can't say it enough, like how humbled I am by this whole experience, because I literally 3 years ago was this guy who was eating pizza on the couch 6 days a week. And now all of a sudden, like, I've been flung into this community that's just filled with so much love and so much support all the way around. Like, I never could have ever expected the amount of support and community that there is with everybody. And I just like thank my lucky stars every single day that I'm a small piece of it. So
I have chills right now because like one phone call changed the trajectory and one yes changed the trajectory. And I'm a firm believer in that. Like I believe my yes for Beachbody changed the trajectory of my life. And so when I hear that from someone else, it just gives me chills because that's the power of this community, of your yes around this, you know? That's so cool. Okay, I want to talk about that, your buddy, your pal that came to spin class.
yeah.
Can we like park on that for 2 seconds?
Yeah.
I know for many, you know, we have people on this call of all different ranges, and I'm not sure how familiar you are with what we do in like the net side, but we have some people who they coach themselves, is what I like to say on our team. You know, they get really good at the foundation of self-care and how to show up for themselves. They become their own best coach. Then we have people who, you know, they love spreading the word, they love the products, they coach others, and it's just such a fun hobby for them. And then we have people who are building like massive businesses and just have dreams, like, you know, crazy dreams to really let that ripple out. So we have people on this call of like all ranges, but I think that this is applicable no matter where you are, because this could apply to your fitness journey. This could apply to your business. This could apply to all areas in life, about having the courage to show up again after that, what maybe felt like a failure, right? Can you talk about how you had courage to show up after that moment?
Listen, I got to tell you, like having a friend there to go through that with me was so amazing in being able to show up again, right? Because if it was just some random person that I didn't know, I don't know if I would have had the courage to keep showing up. Obviously I'd taken the job and everything, but I don't know, just like having that support and kind of like what you talked about before with like, some people need the support, some people are their self coaches. I am a firm believer that there has to be both ends of it, right? Because like take a professional athlete, for example, somebody who's been in a sport their entire lives, Tom Brady, right? Just off the top of my head. He's been playing football for what, over 30 years, and he still has coaches. He still has people that he relies on a day-to-day basis up until he retired, right? So like even somebody who would think is the greatest at their sport, the greatest to ever do it, they still have to rely on somebody, right? And so, but at the same time, he's doing all the work on the back end when nobody's even watching, and he's holding himself accountable. So there's both ends of it, right? And there has to be a balance. But I got to tell you, like through every single moment in my life, like I've had to lean on somebody or just, you know, have support from somebody. Like it's funny, my girlfriend's just walking in the door right now from walking our dog, but like, I'll tell you, like when I was training for my Ironman, there were days where I did not want to get out of bed. I did not want to get on the bike. I did not want to lace up my shoes. And she was there for me to get me moving on those days. Like most of the days, like I'm very firm about like having a purpose-driven why and a purpose-driven goal. And I had that, but like, no matter how strong that purpose is, there's still going to be days that you don't want to show up. And so having somebody to lean on to build your confidence that you can keep showing up, it makes all the difference, because it's very easy to lose sight of your goal if you're the only one who's invested in it.
Oh, I love that. I love that Tom Brady analogy. That's so good. Let me look. I'm just looking at my notes and my questions, making sure I'm in the right flow. So I kind of think of these like line in the sand moments, and I feel like you opening the refrigerator. Well, I feel like your hamstring injury, multiple injuries, was kind of like that nudge that's like something's got to give here, and some line in the sand moments. You know, I think of like waves where like it's not always just one line in the sand moment. Like it's not just opening up the refrigerator and seeing 4 pizza boxes from 4 different places and being like, dude, like something's got to go or something's got to give.
Right.
But that the waves, you know, go out and they come back in and wash that line away. And all of a sudden we have a new line that we have to draw in the sand. Do you have more like line in the sand moments that have been a part of that whole journey as a catalyst to get you from there to here?
100%. I'll tell you. So like, I always talk about like my why that sort of like sparked the fire with the injury and the pizza boxes. My why that I keep going is something that like like, it's easy to forget that moment when you're opening up the pizza. Like if it's just like a random Wednesday, I'm not going to think about that, right? The pizza box thing, right? But right after I lost all the weight, it was maybe, it was October of 2018. So like I started the transformation in like March, April of 2018. And then October came around. My family, especially on my dad's side, has a really bad history with heart issues. Pretty much every man on my dad's side of the family has either passed away or had serious complications when it comes to heart issues. Like my uncle passed away at like 39 from a heart attack. And so that's always kind of stuck with me. And in October, like right after I lost all the weight, came out that my dad had to have quadruple bypass surgery. And so I flew back to Michigan. And just like being there with him and like seeing him go through that, like having open heart surgery and like being there at the hospital, like I had the moment, like he was still like coming back out from anesthesia and everything. But like I had the moment, I was like, if I don't keep this up, if I don't stay on this path, this is going to be me. Like I'm at the time I was maybe 28 or something like that. And my uncle passed away. Like I said, he was 39. Like if I was to not keep down this path, if I was to revert to my old ways, literally could have 12 more years potentially, maybe not even, right? So that was just a moment that I think about all the time. And luckily my dad is okay. Like I talked to him yesterday and he was complaining to me about how cold it is in Michigan and what I have to look forward to. But like, that's just something that I'll never forget. Like it's imprinted in my mind that like, if I don't keep this up, that could very well be my future. And that's why I keep going like that. Like there's multiple whys in my life. That is one of the strongest ones. Another one obviously is for sort of like my community, right? Like I've talked about like being in this position. Here's my take. As somebody who's like new to the fitness industry, right? The fitness industry can be very like, look at me type of thing, right? Like I'm doing this workout, do it, right? To me, fitness is like the most selfless industry that you can be in, where like all of us on this call have the opportunity to affect people's lives. It's not about like how far I can take this thing personally. It's about how far we can take this thing collectively and how much we can influence and benefit people's lives and influence them to go down a path that maybe they might not have considered in the past. Like I mentioned, I was never a cyclist, but discovering the bike changed my life. I fell in love with it. It may not be the answer for everybody, but if I can convince somebody and help somebody find the joy in cycling and it benefits their life, like that's the biggest feather in my cap personally. So, and everybody on this call has that ability, right? So, like that's another like why in my life. And that's something that I think about every single day is like, you know, that's why I show up on the bike and try to bring a new, maybe a different, a different lens to the bike that maybe some other instructors may or may not do. Like, I don't know, but like, that's why I try to sort of differentiate myself in that capacity. So, I hope that answered your question. I went on like a little bit of a tangent there, but
of course it did. And then some. I really do love that you say that, you know, because I think too, in the industry that we're in MLM and network marketing, in every industry, there's bad right. people at their job, right? But for whatever reason, there's this, you know, stigma out there that, you know, people just want to sell you something. And I love that you put that fitness is selfless. And when we come into like our workflow and we sit down and we're ready to like try to pass this gift on to other people, if you're sitting down and it's truly coming from that selfless place where you know that like, man, what I'm doing has the opportunity to ripple out positively to other people. Mm-hmm. It's such a different mindset than sitting down and saying, I just want to sell somebody a pack and, you know, make a couple bucks, right?
100%.
I love that. So I hope you can tell already that my jam is like, I love hearing about struggle and I love hearing about like getting back up and I love hearing about perseverance. So my questions are like, I'm going deep with you, Jared. I hope you're cool. That. I don't do surface level. So 90 pounds, it's incredible. Like 100, all the stuff. Men's Health. By the way, if you guys didn't know, tell us about Men's Health really quick.
So that was another one of these weird things. I actually I don't know, maybe Angel from Beachbody saw that. So basically I lost all the weight. I had a friend that had a friend that had another friend. It was like this whole chain. Somebody knew somebody that worked at Men's Health, and the person at Men's Health posted on Facebook, and somebody else shared it, basically saying like, does anybody know anybody who's lost a bunch of weight? We would love to interview them. And this friend of a friend of a friend, or my friend, reached out to the friend of a friend and was like, hey, like I know this guy who lost a bunch of weight, like maybe you would like to chat with them. So they eventually reached out to me. They wrote like an article about me losing a bunch of weight. And then the crazier thing, and this is just like another one of these like weird situations, CNN around that time also saw the Men's Health article. And so CNN like flew somebody out from Atlanta to interview me. And then they also, just by happenstance, had somebody else who was with them who wasn't supposed to be on that trip. They did like a print article as well. So they did a print article and like a video interview. And that print article ended up like trending like #1 on Apple News world, or it was at least nationwide. So like you like look at your phone and like scroll to the left, and it might have like Apple News, like the top things that are trending. Like my face was on like all of these people's cell phones during that day, which was like, that was a moment where I was like, what the heck? Like I woke up to like people who I hadn't talked to in years, like probably since like elementary school, like messaging me, and we're on the West Coast. So it's like everybody else on the East Coast is up earlier, like 50 text messages, like, oh, Jared, you're on my phone. I was like, what is even going on? Like, I didn't even know when it was going to be published or anything. But yeah, that was, again, like one of these just things where like I said yes, somehow I got put into this situation and it kind of blew up. And that was another thing that like, yeah, it was, I don't know. It's hard to articulate, like, because I never like looked for any of these things. And maybe that sounds, I don't know, like, I just love what I do. And I just love to be able to help people. And somehow doing that has led to all these open doors. And I just, like I said, I'm just like so humbled and thankful for the ability to be able to have these conversations and connect with all of you. So, yeah.
I think that's like, I just think that your yes, it's not happenstance that these other things happen. It's that you said yes, and then you took some action.
Mm-hmm.
Just put your head down and you got to work without worrying about the result. We talk about this a lot on our team, as we talk about action over outcome, and just finding joy
100%.
in the journey and prize in the process. And I think that you're a beautiful example of that. So if you guys don't know why we love Jared yet, if you're on here and you didn't know that you love Jared, now you do. Okay, so you're 90 pounds, your claim to fame, you're on everybody's cell phone.
Yeah.
Figured it out. What I find that incredible. Like, congrats.
Thank
That
you.
is not an easy feat. And I know that the work that goes behind that, the behind the scenes stuff, did not come without challenges. But what I find even more incredible personally is the person who stays. Person who doesn't drop all that, claim to fame, big ego, and then whatever, let me live my life now, and like you have a staying power. So can you talk to us, like, what is your staying power? What keeps you around?
It's a hard question to answer. I think that when you're going through a big transformation like that, you have to, I'm trying to think of how to articulate this. You have to be so keyed on what you want your life to look like that when you work hard day in and day out, what you want it to look like, that has to become your lifestyle. That has to become your identity. Like, it's not, Jared, I'll tell you. So through my transformation, there was like, I talk all the time about the people who were supporting me. There's always going to be haters out there, right? There's always going to be people saying, oh, Jared can't do this. Oh, Jared, he lost all this weight. Like, let's see how, like, when he falls back. Right. And so you have to be so keyed on your vision that no matter what anybody else says, like, nothing's going to get in the way of that. And that identity has to become your lifestyle. Right. So if you're like, if you're wavering, if you're maybe non-committal, if if you're kind of like 1 foot in, like it's very easy to fall back. And so just like convincing yourself that this is the way I do things now. And by the way, like my transformation happened like probably quicker than most. Most of the time, real gains and real change happens incrementally, right? So it's, you gotta make these small changes, and then eventually one day you wake up and it's like, wow, I'm a totally different person than I was, right? And so I think just like making it your identity, finding that consistency, and finding a group of people around you that will be willing to support you when things get tough. Like those are the things that I think of when I think about staying power, and just being able to continue that. And also, like I talked about with the purpose-driven why, right? Like if you forget that, it's very easy to fall back. And for me, like I'm always trying to update that why and find new ways. So like I'm sure if some of you followed me on Instagram, or maybe if you don't follow me, I'll tell you. So my grandfather in 2008 passed away from pancreatic cancer. He's like one of the strongest people I ever knew. He's like one of the people that I looked up to the most as a child. The type of person that like I get my love of sports for, was on the treadmill every single day up until like his early 80s when he passed away. But anyway, so he got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and within like 3 months he was gone. And that really stuck with me for a long time, and obviously still sticks with me. And so ever since he passed away, because it happened so quickly, I've been raising money for the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, basically for the last 13 years, just because like it affected me so much. For those of you who don't know, pancreatic cancer is the deadliest form of cancer. At the time, it was like 5% of people who get diagnosed live past 5 years after diagnosis. And so I've been raising money for that charity ever since. And so right now I'm actually training to do a 4x4x48 at the beginning of March. I'll be running 48 miles over 2 days, 4 miles every 4 hours for 2 days. And so you probably have never even noticed this, but maybe you'll notice it now. But during all of my classes, every single day I wear this wristband, this purple wristband, says fight pancreatic cancer. And like, kind of like what I talked about before, like days when you forget your why or forget the reason why you show up, like having a constant reminder, like I wear this every single day. If I'm ever faltering, or if I'm ever like, oh, I don't like, maybe I'm not going to be 100% today, like I can look at my wrist and it's a reminder of why I do what I do. And so maybe that's a picture in a wallet for you, or a background on your home screen or something like that. But like talking about consistency and finding a way to keep the ball moving forward, like it sounds so cliche, but having a really purpose-driven why can light your fire and keep that fire lit for way longer than, anything I can say or anything anybody else can say. Like having a reason why you show up every day is so important. So.
Yeah. Well, because we get those hits, like I wanted to have everybody get on tonight to be able to hear you speak, because that's one of those hits of dopamine that's like, okay, tomorrow I got this. Like that inspires me. I'm ready. Like I love, that's going to be me. And we have those moments. But you talk about the fire lighting moment, but how do you keep the fire going? And that's on you. Right. That's deeply personal to you. So I love that you found personal ways to connect. And I hope you guys heard that he has naysayers. Like we all have people who don't believe in us.
If you look at that, it's funny. If you were to find that Men's Health article on Facebook, the amount of people, like there's comments on Facebook, people I don't know, all of the comments are like, oh, he's not even that fit. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And like, I looked at that and at the time, like it was my first exposure having anything written about me. And I was just like, these people have no idea what the struggle is like. Like, how can they, or maybe they do, I don't know, but like these people don't even know me and they're like hating on me on the internet, right? Type of thing. And I'm just like, that was a moment in my life where I was like, listen, it doesn't matter what anybody else says. I just lost 90 freaking pounds and people are going to still talk trash. Like I have to be confident in my identity and what I'm doing and what I'm doing it for. What other people say doesn't really matter. So. Yeah.
So good. Oh my gosh. You were initiated. Like,
Yeah, literally.
right? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And so our team name is Inspire Beauty. And the whole premise of that is like my desire and what I try to instill into these men and women on our team is, why not go out and be an inspiration and a beacon of beauty and hope and something positive on the internet versus
100%.
that
Right.
other person? Because it's a choice, right?
Yeah. And by the way, like for those of you, maybe you heard the story. I told a story during one of my classes a couple of weeks ago. I don't have all bad, like I think that social media it can be a very positive influence as well. And so I told this story. I'm not going to get too far into it, but basically I was running, I was on a trail run over the summer training for my Ironman, and it was like 4 a.m. and I found a dog that was running along the trail without a collar, without anything. And another one of these like crazy coincidence situations where I wouldn't have necessarily been on the trail, but I found this dog, didn't have an owner, brought it home, and through the internet and social media, we found its owners. And so like, I want to say that like negativity thing with a grain of salt, because the social media can be such a positive influence. And by the way, I just have to say this because I've been, a lot of my friends have been like messaging me. So, one of my buddies the other day was like, you're sharing like so many stories on Instagram. By the way, I am not like a social media guru whatsoever. I just learned how to make a reel the other day. Like I am so new to this whole thing, but here's my message about like sharing everybody's story. Like in my opinion, like social media can be a tool for growth and building community and things like this. And so I know if I was to look at myself 3 years ago, like if somebody was to repost, like David Goggins just like responded to one of my Instagram posts the other day, and it like lit my freaking fire. And chances are he just like hit like copy paste type of reaction. But like the more I can promote everybody in this community and like build everybody else up, like that's what my goal is. And so I just love seeing all the interaction, seeing all the stories. Like you guys light my friggin' fire every single day. And so I just like want to thank you guys for that. Like, I don't know. I just like the power of social media and being able to connect with all of you guys has been like, it's been life-changing to be totally honest. And I didn't know what to expect. And it's just like totally blown me away. So, yeah, it's funny.
That was one of the first things I told my husband. Was like, babe, he like reshares everything. Like he always shares whenever I tag him. Like
I literally live for this. Like I have my career, like my day job or whatever that pays bills, but like I joke around about this, like this stays in this safe space with this team, but like I would do this for free. Like don't tell Carl this, but like I just live for doing this every single day. Like building these connections, motivating like this is what lights my fire. I talked about it earlier. This is my why. Like I just love it. Every single second of it. And just like being able to interact with everybody has just been so awesome. And seeing everybody's growth and PRs and first rides. Like that's what I live for, man. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's great. It's great. And also being on the West Coast, like talking about like motivating everybody, or, some people say like, oh, your class motivated me, whatever. You guys motivate me. Like I wake up, it's, 7 a.m. here is 4 a.m. or what is it, 10 a.m. on the East Coast. I'll wake up to like messages of people. I'm just like, all right, well, if Brittany is getting up and getting after it this morning, I got to show up. Like I got to show up too. Right. So like you guys motivate me so much to be the best version of myself. And it's really like, I don't know. It really is community. It's like, just because I'm on the bike in front of the camera, like you guys are what make this thing. So I just want to thank you guys for that.
Yeah. And you guys, I hope you hear that like the power of tagging somebody, when he wakes up, he sees the tags, and I'm certain that all of a sudden he feels a deep responsibility to show up for himself that day, right? Because there's other people counting on him. And the same applies to us. When you start to really immerse yourself in like the community aspect, it puts you on a different level of accountability too, And
it's also like, in these days, like talk can be so cheap, right? But if you're leading by example, leading your teams and being a leader for your community, like even if you're just posting like one small thing, or just like, I don't know, if somebody sees you out while you're on a run, like that can be so impactful on somebody else's day, where maybe they weren't motivated and they just needed that one little spark to get them to lace up their running shoes, or strap on their cycling shoes, or what have you. So
Absolutely.
mhm.
Okay. You are officially do you call it an Iron Man? Like, are you an
Yeah,
Iron Man?
I'm an Iron
No?
Man.
Okay, you're an Iron Man. You're
Yeah.
officially an Iron Man. Number one, I want you to tell the community, tell the crowd,
Yeah.
what does that even mean, right? Like, what does that take? And then I want you to walk us through that journey a little bit, and like, what are some of like the crucial things you learned? Because that's not an easy feat to accomplish. So congratulations on that. But can you talk about like maybe some of like the key lessons that you learned in training for that?
100%. So for those of you who don't know, an Ironman is a 2.4-mile swim, followed by a 112-mile bike, followed by a 26.2-mile run, a marathon, all in succession. So it's 140.6 miles total. It's one of these things where, like, I didn't wake up one day and think, oh, like I'm gonna do an Ironman, right? I was teaching a class one day, and one of my students was like, you should do this sprint triathlon with me. Which was, I think it was like 0.7 mile swim, 15 miles on the bike, and then like 5K. And I hated running. I hated swimming. I literally like went to train in the pool my first time, like getting ready for this sprint triathlon. And I had realized that probably the last time I was in a pool without a drink in my hand was like probably in like high school or something. It was a long time. So I trained for this sprint triathlon, didn't know what I was really doing. And but after I did it, it was like such a feeling of accomplishment. Like I had never had that competitive sort of outlet, or I hadn't for a long time, right? And like I said, I hated running. But that fire was lit. And so a couple months later, there was a Santa Monica Olympic distance triathlon, which is a little bit longer. And after I did that, I was like, okay, like I want to try doing a half Ironman. And that was in 2020, and we all know how 2020 went. So the race eventually got moved to 2021. And I was like, well, if I have a year to train for this half Ironman, I might as well just go all in and just like train as hard as I can for the year and do a full. So that's what I did. And all I had to do was like sign up. I was just like, you know what, if I sign up, I'm going to do it. And so trained for 11 months. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. It was a huge commitment. And it's funny, like I was talking to my girlfriend about it right before I signed up. I was like, listen, if I'm going to do this, like, I'm going to need your support. Cause like, I don't know if I can do this on my own. There's gonna be days I don't want to show up. I don't know if she truly understood the commitment. I don't know if I truly knew the commitment that it was going to take to be able to get it done. But yeah, it was, and I think back to the moment of like crossing the finish line, and I just like broke down in tears when I crossed the finish line. It was like, I've never trained and had focus on one singular moment for an entire year and then gotten to that moment. Like I've never experienced something like that. And that was my personal thing. Anybody else could have a very similar thing if you dive all the way in. But what I would say is during that race, everything that could have gone wrong pretty much went wrong. It was in Mexico, and there was a terrible thunderstorm that day, like probably the worst thunderstorm I've seen in years. And so we're waiting to jump in the water, and we go out in waves. And the way it's set up is there's like a dock, and you jump in from the dock into the water and do the swim. So it's pouring rain. I'm like waiting my turn to jump in. And I'm like looking at everybody jump in. Some people are like getting on their butts and kind of just like falling in. Some people are full out diving in. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to kind of like pencil dive, just like get in the water. That way I'm in a situation where I can like get moving pretty quickly. I jump in the water, not knowing how deep it was. And it was probably only like 3 feet deep. And I like cut up my foot really, really bad. And I'm like, this is second number one of a 10+ hour race. Like, okay, like, how am I going to deal with this? So I kind of just like kicked along. I was like, okay, I'm just going to fight through. Then the bike portion comes. I make it through the swim, the bike portion comes. It's pouring rain. And throughout the day, there's puddles that start to accumulate during like around like the downtown area in Cozumel. And there's puddles everywhere. And so I'm biking through a bunch of puddles, and eventually 70 miles into the race, I hit a puddle that I thought was just a regular puddle. It turns out it was actually a pothole, like a huge pothole that had filled up through the course of the day. I hit the pothole, flew off of my bike at like 20 miles per hour, skidded along the concrete. Another guy hit me. His bike was totaled. I get back to my bike, like checking myself. I still have the scars to prove it. I was all cut up. I didn't realize it at the time. And my bike was broken, where like, if you've ever seen like a triathlon bike, like the handlebars are like this. Well, my handlebars were bent like this. So the final like 40 plus miles, I had to ride on like a broken bike, and then I had to run the marathon. But I did it. I was basically like, even if I have to freaking like hobble across on this bike, I'm going to cross this finish line. And so I think back to that moment, or those moments throughout that day. Anytime I go through a difficult situation, I can lean on that moment where like, I can think to myself, like, whatever I'm doing now is nowhere near as difficult as biking 40 miles in the pouring rain on a broken bike and like bleeding everywhere. You know what I mean? So like, and I'll give you an example of this. It was December 30th. I was supposed to teach a class, and I created a playlist, did the whole class. I ended up getting COVID, so I wasn't able to teach that class. And so the way that we do it a little bit behind the scenes at Beachbody, we have to submit our classes like 4 to 5 weeks in advance of the actual class. And so I wasn't able to do that class. I was really excited for it. So I messaged our internal team and was like, hey, like, can we move this playlist to January 21st and move the January 21st class out to February? And so January, I get the go ahead, blah, blah, blah. January 21st comes along. I had been working on my playlist and prepping for the class for like the week before, like getting all my cues ready, like totally dialed in. I get on stage. It's like 4 minutes before the red lights come, before go live, and we're doing mic check and audio check. And the audio comes in through my ear, and it's the original playlist that was originally supposed to be January 21st. And I was like, I switched this. This is not supposed to be the playlist that's today. And by that point, it's too late. And so people are running around like crazy, like, what do we do? What do we do? I had none of my notes, like nothing queued up for that playlist. Everybody's freaking out. And in that moment, Paul, who's like one of the head of productions at Beachbody, he like comes to me, he's like, these are the moments that like prepare you or that you lean on, that, you know, you can think of. And when he said that, I leaned on my experience at the Ironman, thinking like, this is just a bump in the road. Like if I can do these 40 miles or whatever and finish the Ironman, like while everybody else is like going crazy and all this, I can just focus on what I got to do. And with the support of the entire team, it was a madhouse during that class. With the support of the team, like we were able to get the class done. And maybe it wasn't our best class that I ever taught, but like we were able to find a way to finish it. And so like, and now, like, whereas it was the Cozumel, the Ironman that I leaned on, now it's that moment. So like, I think that the moral of the story is like every single one of us has gone through a difficult situation and somehow made it through that difficult situation. And I think oftentimes once we get out of it, we throw it in the rear view and forget about it. And I think that we have to pay more attention and remember those chips in the armor, those difficult times that you were able to persevere when everything was stacked against you, and not forget it and lean on it, and just remember it that's a feather in your cap. That's something that you should be proud of as you go into other difficult situations as well.
Oh, that's so cool. So fun fact, at about an hour before the call, we did a spin meetup. A bunch of gals got on and took a class with you so that they could hype and get excited. Yeah. And they took that class. That's what they did.
Really?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it was crazy. Like it was everybody was running around like what do we do? What do we do? And it was just like, okay, like this is the situation. How do we deal with it? How do we move forward? And people give me a little bit of flack for my counting down a little bit slow sometimes.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up.
It started during that class because I wasn't sure exactly what the cues were. So I'll take the brunt of that though.
I have it written down right here. Number one question, why do you count backwards so slow? I was
You
waiting.
just got to live in the moment. You got to love, like, although there's pressure building and pressure mounting, you got to live in that moment. No,
Yeah.
I just
trust and believe that I've lived in that moment, and I've probably cussed you out in that moment.
Yeah.
When
You can cuss me out as much as you want during the class. As long as after the class we can still be friends, it's all good.
I love it. I wrote down you trained for this, like the whole, mishap with the playlist and all this, and having to kind of just wing it and be on the fly, in a sense. You trained for it in your Ironman.
Mm-hmm.
And every, like you said, it's like all the things leading up to the Ironman. It wasn't like one day you woke up and let's do an Ironman after you saw the pizza in the fridge. There were a lot of steps between them. And all of those, when you look backwards, are training grounds for that next level of you. And that's amazing. I love that. Okay. You talk about in your classes, I swear I'm getting close to the end.
No, it's okay. I got all night.
Of this interrogation.
I love
you
it.
talk in your classes a lot about that the best views come after the hardest climbs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and I like to say, whenever we get to the top of a mountain, it's an opportunity to look around and see that there's actually more to climb.
Mm-hmm.
And I remind my coaches and my team that often, because what I tend to see is I've seen people who will get to that mountaintop moment. And my dog Grace says hi. They'll get to that mountaintop moment and they will look around the view and they will eat their Cliff Bar there and they'll grab their sack and they'll go right back down to the parking lot and get back in the car. Mm-hmm. And not climb any more mountains. And I'm like, what? That really, the prize was really all you wanted. I think when you get there, you start to realize that you have more potential in you and there's more mountains to climb. So this is a bonus question. I didn't ask you this. I love throwing bonus questions at people.
Yeah.
What's your next mountain? What are you what's the next thing you personally are trying to climb for yourself?
Listen, going through that Ironman was the most difficult thing I have ever done. And it was I talked to you about it, it was crazy. And so once you do that, it can be easy to fall back in the rut. It's what's next? What do I do? And so that's part of the reason why I'm doing this 4x4 by 48 thing in March. I'm always trying to I'm very goal motivated and very I'm very motivated by what's next type of deal, right? That's why I do these triathlons and all of that, because it keeps me motivated. For me, there was that month of December where I was just kind of rudderless. I was I just worked my butt off. And by the way, that it's totally cool to not be all the way on all the time. I worked my butt off for so long, I deserved, and I think I owed it to my girlfriend to kind of take a step back and have some time for her and all that. But for me, it was what's next, right? So doing that, I also signed up for the LA Marathon, which is also in March. And then I didn't say this earlier, but I actually also qualified for the World Championships for the half Ironman as well, which is going to be in October. So for me, it's all about what's next and how can I keep this ball rolling, because it's very easy to fall in that rut and forget why you're doing this whole thing, right? And as far as Beachbody, I've said it a million times already and I feel like I'm a broken record, but I'm just enjoying the ride as much as I can. It's one of these things where it's totally unexpected that this is even happening. And I'm just loving connecting with everybody that I can. As far as Beachbody, whatever, people have talked to me about are you going to do a program one day? And it's just I'm not even worried about those types of things. I'm worried about getting as many people on this wave as possible. And then whatever happens, maybe I'll be a super trainer one day, maybe not. That's cool too. But my goal is just to get as many people on this boat as possible and transform as many lives as we can, because at the end of the day, that's how we all win. Kind of what I was talking about before. That's what my fuel is getting people to realize their full potential and make life-changing, sort of trajectories.
Yeah. Don't forget, Jared, you're still super with us.
Yeah, thanks. But we're just like, I don't know, like I view it as like, I'm just like listen, like guys like Sean T and Joel and all, like, I just feel so lucky. Like I am riding their coattails. They paved the way. You guys all paved the way. Like I'm such a small piece in this thing. And sure, like I'm just having a great time and enjoying the ride. And like whatever happens will happen. And like let's see how far we can take this thing type of deal.
That's so fun. That's so fun. I love though that you also, I'm not a farmer and I don't know anything about farming. I did grow up in Michigan, so I feel like I know the seasons, but like, I believe that that's important in our journey too, is understanding there is a season of harvest and a season of like reaping the fruits of your freaking labor.
Mhm.
There's also a season of rest. There's a season of, you got to plant the seeds and you got to just let it sit. Right. And so I love that you coming out of that season, it wasn't like more, but you honored the people around you, you honored some priorities and you honored rest. And I think that that's a word, you guys. I hope you're clinging to that too tonight.
If you ever, there's a book that I read over pandemic. It's called Peak Performance. If you've ever read it before, if you've never read of it, it's a really, really great book. Basically, the whole thesis of the book is stress plus rest equals growth. So you have to stress yourself, like not actual, like I'm stressed out, but like stress is in like physical stress or mental stress plus rest equals growth. And so like, I think that a lot of time we discount how important rest truly is in our growth, because it's like, there's such like, when it comes to social media or any like, in our, I'm not going to say our community, but like in, just in general, like it's preached like, I'm going to hustle hard all the freaking time. I'm going to be go. I'm going to outwork everybody. But guess what? If you're not resting, then you're just straining your muscles. You're straining your mind. You have to have that time to like take a step back and really be able to realize all those gains that you really earned while you were stressing. So absolutely.
Yay. Okay, last question. They asked this on the National Wake Up Call. We have this like Monday coach call where they bring on like successful coaches in the network and they just give us their little golden nuggets. And one of the newer questions that they've been asking at the tail end of the call that I just love so much, it's so powerful, that I want to ask you is, what's your superpower?
You messaged me about this and I really had to take a think about it. And I think that just my superpower would probably just be my ability to say yes when I maybe don't necessarily want to, right? Like every single one of us has been in that situation where we want to say no, and being able to say yes and being able to dive all the way into something. I joke all the time with like my friends and my girlfriend, like that I have one speed. It's either I am all the way in or I'm all the way out. Like, I don't know if anybody here has watched Parks and Rec. One of my, if anybody has, one of my favorite quotes from that show, Nick Offerman at one point said, you can't have, or you're how did it go? It was like, don't half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing. And that's something that I like think about all the time. I had to like make sure I got it correct. Being able to like, because we're pulled in so many different directions, like find 1, 2, 3, like whatever you can actually manage, find those things and dive all the way in. Like there's no benefit of kind of like half-assing and kind of keeping one toe in the water like that. I guess that's my thing, is saying yes and committing and diving all the way in and immersing myself in that thing, rather than kind of just like, floating in and kind of committing.
I think like Night Made that you referenced Parks and Rec.
Yeah. I had to make sure I had the quote all teed up, and then like as I was saying it, I totally forgot it, but I able to get it. So
yeah, I think it comes down to focusing, finding your focus. You said it, we get pulled so many directions. It's a loud world out there.
Yeah.
It can be really noisy.
And by the way, like when I talk about being all the way in or all the way out, I had to train myself to get to that point. Like I mentioned earlier, like every January would come around and it would be a new fad diet and I would fall off. Like I had to train myself and learn how to do that, because like, I'll be the first to say, like, I was very undisciplined in my daily life. I would kind of just like float around and not really commit to anything. And as I went down this path, cycling really taught me how to be disciplined and be able to jump in and dive in and really immerse myself in one thing. And that one thing grew to many different things as it came to fitness and other things as well.
I love it. There's a couple rapid fire questions that I saw in the chat. Yeah. I'm going to scroll up for the other one, but I just see one. Do you cycle every day?
So I cycle most days. When I was doing the triathlon, my coach had me probably cycling. It was like 5 days a week. And then there were like some days where I would like do a really long run or something like that. But these days I cycle probably 5 days a week is probably a fair number.
Right on.
I just love it. It's like, I talk about it all the time, but like, it's my escape, right? Like I could have the worst day ever. Nothing can go right. Or I could have a great day where everything is going great. And the one constant is the bike. Like I can totally unplug, throw my earphones in and just like dance it out and like forget and disconnect everything. Like nothing else matters. And that's been so important to me, not only my physical health, but my mental health as well. Just being able to rely on that one constant that's always there for me. Like I talked about like discipline and being able to like consistently do something over and over again. Like that's the benefit, right? It's not just the physical aspect, like being able to release and like de-stress and let go of some of those situations that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. It's just so important to me.
I think the first ride I ever took from you was your mental health ride. And in that ride you referenced, and it was right when I got my bike, it was very beginning of body launching and everything. And you referenced the bike. I hope I'm not butchering it, but I feel like you called it a safe place. Maybe I'm saying that wrong.
Yeah, safe place, or I think I might have like called it like my home space or something like that.
Yeah, and I'd never, and I was so brand new. Like I shared with you, my husband's been trying to get me to get a bike in the spandex for years, but this was so new to me, and I'd never considered that like that little rectangle around me for those 30 minutes could be so sacred and so safe, and a place of like comfort, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the other things you kind of sparked my memory. Like one of the interesting things is that like most cyclists, when they're training for an Ironman, most of their training is on the road. Whereas for me, because I just love indoor cycling or stationary cycling, probably 80% of my training was on the stationary bike. And that just like goes to show like I was kind of maybe the outlier in that aspect because, most of the time you want to be on the road, but like being able to be on a stationary bike and train for a race or a big goal like that just goes to show how influential and how powerful, whether it's our bike or a trainer bike or anything like that can really be as it pertains to physical fitness. Like it's not just about, it's about, in my mind, it's about finding that happy medium, right? It's about blasting music and dancing and climbing heavy hills, but it's also about becoming a better athlete and a more well-rounded athlete. So finding that like middle spot for the people who are very technical or the people who are just there having a good time, everybody can have the same workout, everybody can get the same gains out of it.
Yeah. And so the 2 days that you're not cycling, you're obviously doing insanity, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It really depends. Now it's actually something that I've really enjoyed is like not having a schedule with my Ironman, like being able to, cute. So cute. Being able to like do more strength workouts, because I was doing a ton of strength workouts before I got into triathlon, and just like the last year it kind of like went by the wayside a little bit because I was always swimming, biking, or running. But like being able to do more strength workouts, and also like I'm one of the people that like when I'm all the way in. Like all these other trainers teach such great classes. Like I love just like promoting them as much as possible because they're awesome. Like, man, Eric, he's like one of my buddies. Like that dude is number one, that dude is jacked, but also like he teaches a great freaking class. Like I was on this podcast the other day, like I'm all in on this platform. And I just love being able to teach my class, but also take all the instructors' classes because like these are world-class trainers that I'm just lucky to be even like mentioned kind of in the same breath as them. Like it's been awesome. So
that's so cool. Another question that was dropped in the chat is, when you had lost your 90 pounds, was that the goal, was like that type of weight loss, or was it simply just a change in your lifestyle?
It was a change in my lifestyle, and the weight just so happened to be a byproduct of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it kind of started off as the rehabbing the injury, but then like I changed my lifestyle and then my body type adjusted.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jared, I'm so grateful for your yes. Another yes. See
Yeah,
the pattern.
exactly.
But I really am seriously grateful that, you took an hour plus of your night tonight. I'm grateful for your girlfriend for also allowing you an hour away to do this. And, I understand the sacrifices that it makes, or that you have to make for things like this. And I'm just grateful, but tell us before we power down, where can we find you? Where can we hang out with you? What's your handle? Tell us about your body schedule. Let the people know.
Yeah.
Oh,
So as far as
tell us how can we donate to your pancreatic, the 4x4x48, and your pancreatic cancer fund and everything. Tell us all the details.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So first things first, I teach On Body every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. This Friday, I'm actually going to be in Michigan, so I unfortunately won't be. But every other Friday, like pretty much consistently, you'll see me there. Next Thursday, I'm actually subbing as well. I think it's at 10 a.m. I want to say, so a week from this Thursday. Hopefully I'll be getting more classes soon. That's something that's sort of like in talks, but nothing official yet. So keep an eye out for that. But Friday is like my spot that I'm there most of the time. As far as social media, my handle is Sklarticus. My last name is Sklar. It's sort of like a play on Sklar and Spartacus. It's here, I'll just drop it in the chat if I can. I talked about it before, but like social media, I just want to like boost everybody and promote everybody that I can. So if you ever have even a small question on bike setup or like anything else, like my door is always open. Like I will do my best to like answer whatever questions you have, or if you ever just have anything, any comments or anything like that, like I'm happy. Like this is what I love to do. As far as the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, I have a link in my Instagram bio. Or if you have any questions, just shoot me a DM or whatever, and I can point you in the right direction. But yeah, that's going to be, it's a month from 3 days ago. So March 4th to the 6th, I'm going to be running 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours straight, which is a little bit nerve-wracking, but I'm excited for it. And I'm sure like if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see some things coming along the way. But would like from the bottom of my heart, like if you would like to donate, like it would mean the freaking world to me. It's like I talked to you guys earlier about how when my grandpa passed away, the survival rate past 5 years was only 5%. I just got an email, I think it was like last week or the week before, that number has jumped up to, I think it's like 11 or 12% now. So like the money that we're raising, like in 13 years has doubled the survival rate. And it's just like, it's mind blowing because I've been on this journey with them and been raising money with them for so long, just to like see the research that's going into it and the community outreach for the people who are affected. Like people don't necessarily think of pancreatic cancer until they know somebody who's been diagnosed, and just like the outreach has been so amazing and life-changing for so many people. And I'm just so excited to be, raising money for a cause that means so much to me. So any support, like from the bottom of my heart, I love you guys so much for it. And yeah, I'm just really excited.
Thank you. We're really excited to cheer you on as you train and get ready to do that. And then of course, day of, we will be there giving you all the cheers. Hey, funny enough about your Sklarticus, when the very first class I think I took from you and I tried to tag you, I'm glad you gave everybody the correct handle because I'm pretty certain I tagged a wrong Jared. And he was not you. Let's just say that he was not you, and he was very much not you.
Oh no. What's funny because like, okay, so like my whole life, like people don't know how to pronounce my last name, and it makes sense because it's 3 consonants in a row. So people always pronounce it Sklar, like for my entire life. So if you ever thought it was pronounced Skylar, like you're not alone. Everybody else did. So it's Sklar and Sklarticus. So
I think I actually accidentally tagged a Skylar.
Yeah.
Anyway,
literally it's like the story. It's so bad that like, yeah, I just like, I have to like spell it out. And I started like intentionally saying Jared, like my name is Jared Sklar at the closing of every one of my classes, because like nobody knows how to pronounce my last name. So I try to be at least a little bit more intentional for it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, I'm going to hit stop on the recording.